Introduced by Maggie O'Farrell, The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. It is stripped off the paper in great patches. The color is repellent, almost revolting, a smoldering, unclean yellow in the places where it isn't faded. I can see a strange, provoking, formless sort of figure that seems to skulk about. Based on the author's own experiences, The Yellow Wallpaper is the chilling tale of a woman driven to the brink of insanity by the rest cure prescribed after the birth of her child. While she is isolated in a crumbling mansion, in a room with bars on a window, the tortuous pattern of the yellow wallpaper winds its way into the recesses of her mind. Charlotte Perkins Gilman was America's leading feminist intellectual of the early 20th century and a brilliant writer, editor, and speaker. The Yellow Wallpaper is her masterpiece, a great work of literature, the product of questing, burning intellect. Maggie O'Farrell, a Virago Modern Classics that I'd like to discuss in tonight's episode of tonight's A Book at Deb Time. Again, I picked this up from Jam Books. This Virago edition I want to particularly recommend. The story itself is a great moment of introspection. Could have almost been a play in a room. It's one woman's reflection as she is effectively under a form of house arrest, albeit for her own benefit, for her own good. Practically medicated and deprived of any agency within her day, effectively becoming wallpaper herself for her husband, who only wants to see her in regards to his trips back from that there London. Alexa, stop. Uh, really is a great reflection on what is happening in There's Plenty Happening Today. In terms of women as objects, and of course, this real, and reading it and the denouement, which I don't want to spoil. Her meditation with the wallpaper, her sense of emotional displacement, psychological displacement, seeing another figure within it. For me, as someone reading this now at 48 and in 2025, so little has changed. The literary merit of this. Virago, incidentally, I first experienced in the early 90s as a publisher. I understood in a vague sense as a teenager then because they published The Handmaid's Tale, which I read not out of any particular gender um, interest, let's be frank. It was it's a sci-fi. I read sci-fi. Have done an amazing job here. By getting Maggie O'Farrell to give a context to it really helps a great deal in understanding who Gilman was and what this story really is about, as well as the backstory giving her biography um, towards the end. That itself is written by Elaine R. Hedges. So it's over 60 pages for a story that's barely over, over 30. Um, as a package, it's a great meditation. The lyricism in the work, I can turn to a page. There is one marked peculiarity about this paper, a thing nobody seems to notice but myself, and that is it changes as the light changes. When the sun shoots in through the east window, I always watch for the first long straight ray. It changes so quickly that I can never quite believe it. The moon shines in all night when there is a moon. I wouldn't know if it was the same paper. Little things like this. You never get description of it. There's an almost Lovecraftian feel of the great unknown of this paper and its expanse. I totally recommend it. It was a really thought provoking for me. It made me think about my own bouts of illness, asthma as a child, and bed rest being the prescription where your mind just needs to wander. Of course, I think isolation is something that we've all experienced now to greater degrees than we had in our pre-COVID times. But the context that comes within this really shows the value. And when you see stories that are out of print or whatever, when you can buy like the cheap version, which is just a story, or when you can actually get some context to it, you'll get the richness of the story and more that you can actually learn and maybe grow and apply within your contemporary life. It's a brief story, so it's a brief video from me today, but definitely do try and get the Virago edition of The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. I would recommend from this and her writing style alone, Women in Economics, but let's be frank, I haven't read it, and I won't be until I'm able to clear more of these shelves. Hopefully, that will be soon. Till then, that is